Hello and welcome to the ACCA Quality Assured Verifier program. This session introduces the program's requirements for participation. This presentation will address these four main points: the requirements to participate, the steps to apply, what is needed to maintain recognition, and finally, the process by which complaints will be resolved. As a reminder, there are two groups that perform evaluations of HVAC system installations: a business that performs the services of a verifier, and the RSI company employee or evaluator. They share the same common requirement to be credentialed, but the verifier is a business offering objective third-party services. The person performing the role of verifier or evaluator must meet certain physical requirements and have an understanding of certain HVAC-related knowledge areas. It includes physical elements such as climbing a ladder or being able to move around a crawl space. It also lists subjects the verifier should be familiar with, such as ventilation and load calculations, air and water flow measurements, combustion venting, and measuring duct leakage. This complete list is located in the programmatic documents located at www.acca.org/QA. The next item is the application process. As a verifier or an evaluator, you'll need to follow the applicable steps. The elements of the flowchart will be discussed at length. The steps to apply are simple. First, the verifier or evaluator must earn the credential to perform the applicable evaluations, either by passing the ACCA online test or by earning the NATE certification. Next, pay the applicable fees and complete the online application form. Finally, submit the requested information either by email or fax. The information requested of the verifier is a signed copy of the QA Verifier Participation Agreement and standard documentation required of a business. If your state or municipality requires a trade license, please submit a copy of it. If there's no trade license required, then none need be submitted. Most city, county, or other jurisdictions require a business registration. If yours does, please submit a copy of it. Finally, the program requires a certificate of insurance for the following types of coverage: general liability, errors and omissions, auto, and workers' compensation. There's no minimum amount of insurance required. It's understood that some business types do not require workers' compensation insurance. If no requirement exists, then none needs to be submitted. Please have the insurance broker send the certificate to the address you see there. This certificate does not extend coverage to ACCA. It merely informs us of that the insurance policy is valid. The verifier is also required to self-certify that they have policies and procedures addressing a few basic business practices. They must maintain their tools calibration. They need to meet minimum continuing education requirements. They must list the safety equipment they provide to their employees and the equipment the employee is expected to provide. And finally, they must ensure their vehicles are marked with applicable license numbers if required by the state and meet the vehicle inspection requirements of their state. In order to maintain the recognition of the program, the verifier company must continue to meet a few additional requirements. They must maintain records of the work that's performed in support of the program. They must meet the reporting requirements. And during an in-field evaluation, if a safety issue arises that is deemed by the verifier to be unsafe, then they must call 911 if applicable, warn the occupants of the home of the danger and the need to evacuate, and if prudent, turn off a gas valve or breaker to prevent damage or injury. And finally, they report the matter to the RSI contractor and the applicable utility. These are the elements in the verifier requirements to maintain recognition, and the verifier must continue to comply with them. The verifier program also has a complaint resolution process that will be reviewed next. All complaints or compliance requests are initially reviewed for adequate substantiation and compliance with applicable procedures. This review focuses on four elements: whether it relates to the verifier requirements, whether the passage of time since the alleged violation occurred requires it to be rejected, whether it adequately describes and substantiates the alleged violation such that a review and a potential request for corrective action could proceed, and whether there is reasonable cause to believe that the compliance request is justified considering the proof available. The QA Program Administrator will endeavor to make this initial determination within 30 days of receipt of the compliance request. However, the period of initial review may be extended for the purpose of reviewing and comparing multiple similar requests regarding a verifier or for other administrative reasons. If the administrator determines that additional information is needed to clarify or substantiate a potentially actionable complaint, the administrator will request additional details from the individual or entity submitting the request. This additional documentation must be received within 30 days. If the complainant fails to respond within the allotted 30 days, the request will be dismissed. Complainants may resubmit revised complaints, including additional clarification or documentation at any later date. However, the administrator will typically reject complaints where no additional useful details are provided. Resubmitted complaints will be reviewed by the QA Program Administrator in the same manner as a new compliance request. If a compliance request is deemed actionable, the administrator will forward a copy of the complaint to the verifier and request resolution or response within 30 days. The verifier must address each element of the complaint, including a copy of any documents relevant to the resolution of the complaint. The administrator may request additional information to supplement a verifier's response. Additionally, if the verifier fails to respond, such failure will be construed as an admission of all facts set forth in the complaint. Where a complaint is found to be true, a finding of noncompliance is issued, and the applicable corrective action will be taken. The first level of corrective action that may be given is a warning. After the warning is issued, the verifier shall remain listed on the directory while the finding of noncompliance is resolved. The verifier must submit a written summary that specifies in detail the remedial actions taken, to include documentation that 6 hours of approved training and education was provided to address the deficient skill sets identified, documentation that the tool or instrument deficiencies have been corrected, or for policy and procedure deficiencies, copies of the revised documents in compliance with the applicable QA program requirements. The verifier must also reimburse expenses associated with the use of third-party verification in the determination of the finding of noncompliance. If during this period the verifier fails to specify how the deficiency has been resolved, the verifier will be delisted from the directory and shall remain delisted until the deficiency is satisfactorily addressed. If the noncompliance is satisfactorily resolved and no findings of noncompliance are noted, then the records are expunged after 1 year. If a second finding of noncompliance is issued within 365 days of the prior warning, this shall result in probation, during which the verifier shall be delisted and prohibited from verifying HVAC system installations for the program for a period of 30 days. And the deficiency must be satisfactorily addressed through the submission of a remediation report. The verifier must be retested, and if applicable, the payment of reimbursement must be made. Receiving a third finding of noncompliance during an 18-month period shall result in dismissal from the verifier program, resulting in the forfeiture of all fees paid, immediate delisting from the verifier directory, and a prohibition from claiming participation in the program. Dismissed verifiers will be prohibited from reapplication for a period of 6 months. All of the material recently covered can be found in these documents at the website listed below. This concludes this session. This has been a review of the minimum requirements to participate, the process for applying for recognition, how to maintain recognition, and the process by which complaints will be resolved. If you have any questions about what you saw or heard here today, please feel free to contact us. You can call, write, or visit our website for more information. Thank you.